Hello everyone, today's game is between Hikaru Nakamura with the white pieces and Dragan Solak with the black pieces. This game took place in 2012 at the chess olympiad, which took place in Istanbul. So Nakamura, the white pieces, Solak with the black pieces. So Nakamura plays g3, d5, knight of 3, knight of 6, bishop g2, c6, d3, bishop f5, castle e6. So we have a sort of ready, uh, ready opening, right? That's what it used to be called a long time ago, uh, under the name New York and Capablanca systems. Uh, it also can fall under the umbrella of a King's Indian attack, so to speak. But the point is here is that Hikaru, who was rated 2778 at the time, against his opponent Dragan Solak, who was rated 2600. Hikaru was not trying to play for any type of opening advantage here. All right, he's basically looking to just get a solid position and outplay his opponent later on in the game. This is a very solid system for white, especially if you haven't played chess in a while and you don't have time to analyze tons of continuations and variations. This is a good way to set up, especially if you have a good understanding of chess. All right, you can avoid a lot of opening preparation by playing like this. Nakamura plays knight h4. Okay, just simply going after the bishop pair, right? Bishop g6. Okay, so black concedes the bishop pair, but bishop g4 is a move that is very often seen. And h3, bishop h5, knight d2, bishop e7, queen e1. This is all thematic play, these lines. f4, bishop takes, g takes, castles, e4, rook e8, queen g3, and you have this like double-edged type of position here. Bishop g6 was played, knight takes g6, h takes g6. Some players play like this, and they figure they can, just exploit the h file. I like how Nakamura deals with this idea of blacks though. So knight d2, okay. Sometimes white will also play a move like e4 here. Excuse me. And try to go into an ending. But usually white doesn't have enough to really make much out of his space and central advantage in his bishop pair. So this is for the really unambitious player. Nakamura plays knight d2, knight bd7, e4, d takes e4, and d takes e4. Okay. e5. Now, what black gains here by fixing the pawn structure in the center is that now white's light square bishop is shut down on the long diagonal. This is one of the downsides of fianchettoing early, is that you are kind of signaling to your opponent, location of a critical piece early in the game, and often strong players will exploit that. So here black just simply plays e5 and shuts down the influence of this bishop on this diagonal here. Queen e2, bishop c5, knight f3, queen c7, and now h4. And I like this move by Hikaru because it neutralizes to some degree the effect of this rook down this line on the h file, as opposed to when the pawn is here and black has hopes of building up an attack down the h file. This move kind of shuts black down, his hopes down on really doing anything on this file, and he also controls this square here, the g5 square. Right? There's no hope of a move like h6 now that the pawn has been uh, moved to the g6 square. All right. So this is a great move, and it exploits the choice that Black made earlier to play bishop g6 and give up the bishop pair to have the h file open. So now the h file is open, but he really can't use it. All right. So castles, bishop h3. So Nakamura improves his bishop, right? He gets from behind this dead weight here. Rook f e8, king g2, knight f8, and now knight g5. Okay, so Nakamura is making some progress in this opening, which it seemed like Black was just having an easy go of it. All right. Besides having a pair of bishops, it's also what White is able to do on the king side and exploiting Black's pawn structure over there. His knight is beautifully posted on g5. He has gained some space over there with h4. And then, to me, the biggest thing is that the knight can't really easily be driven away from the g5 square. All right, so all of these factors together, White can develop a kingside attack if Black is not careful. So that is pretty good coming from a pretty innocuous situation in the opening. Rook a d8, a3. Okay. Queen e7, and again we spoke about this knight, so maybe it was better to try to trade it off with a move like knight 8 h7, bishop d2, knight takes, bishop takes g5, and rook d6. So the knight is gone, although Black still maintains control of the g5 square. Instead, he played queen e7. Nakamura played bishop d2, knight 8 h7 now, and now rook a e1. This fortifies the e pawn here, so that perhaps at some other time White will desire to play the move f4. Okay. Knight takes g5, bishop takes g5, queen c7, and now h5. So we can see now that White is making progress on the king side here. And of course he exploits the pin. Of course Black would just rather take with the knight here, but then the rook will be captured. So g takes h5, bishop takes f6, g takes f6. So the culprit here can be this move queen c7, moving away from the protection of the knight, although getting out of the pin. Because after here, Nakamura quickly exploits the lack of protection on the Black king side. So things have gone from bad to worse for Black here. King f8, rook h1, and I like that move. A lot of players would rush to play queen to h5, which is playable. But then after king e7, the rook is going to be coming into the position, and the queen might have to move back. So I like the fact that Nakamura decided to use the rook instead to capture the pawn. So now rook h8 isn't as big of a deal here. Here Nakamura plays g4. Very strong move here. Rook dg8. And Naka plays king f3. Alright. And now his idea is to take over the h file without exchanging a pair of rooks here. Okay. The reason why is that Black can't really exchange here because he would just create a pass pawn, outside pass pawn for White. So rook d8, and now rook e h1, rook h f8. So Nakamura takes the h file by force, and now rook h7, queen a5, now queen c4. So now this attack is very strong. As you can see, this f7 pawn is pinned, and so queen to e6 is a problem here. And this tells us that at some point b5 had to be played in order to keep uh, the queen off of this diagonal here. So perhaps instead of this move right here, rook dg8, which I didn't really see is doing anything, because after rook dg8, basically it was just a one move threat in order to play here. So after Nakamura played king f3, then he just moved the rook back. So perhaps instead of doing that kind of gimmicky move right there, move like b5 is probably better. And this keeps, and then play can go, say, rook eh1, in the same manner, but instead of shuffling this rook back and forth, he has to move b5 here. And now you can see the difference. There's no queen c4 and all that stuff here. All right, black is still worse, but he's definitely better than what happened in the game. So back to that position. Queen a5 was played, and now queen c4. Now the only move really here for black is a move like rook d6 to stop the mate. Instead, Solak plays queen b5, and perhaps he was in some time trouble. I have no idea, but he overlooks mate in 1, and Nakamura played queen e6 and checkmated him. Now if he tries rook d6 here, he's in trouble anyway after bishop g6. It's too much pressure on the f7 square. Rook e6, rook d1, queen b5, and then queen a2 with the idea of swinging this bishop back to f5, and that's all she wrote. So Solak resigned after 31 moves. Actually, he didn't resign. I'm sorry. He actually checkmated on board. So what lessons can we take from this game? One, we mentioned earlier, is that, again, if you don't really have a lot of time to prepare, you can just play a simple game like Nakamura did, really not trying to get a advantage out of the opening, but just set up a solid position, or a house, as Sarawan called it in one of his famous books, right? Because you can pretty much use this as a universal setup against practically any opening as white. The only downside is that you're giving up space in the opening. As you can see, white only occupies the first 3 ranks. So in order to have your flexibility, you are giving up some space. But if you are a strong player, have a lot of experience and understanding, you can play like this, and you can at the same time avoid extensive preparation. Right? You can just get get right down to business and not have to worry about your opponent memorizing 20 moves into some variation, such as the dragon, Sicilian, or knight off, or something like that. The other thing that we learned in this game also is that even though a position might seem quiet, there often can be opportunities here. Like, who would have thought from such a basic looking position that there would be attacking possibilities here. So we see that black had drifted, and then white was able to seemingly whip up a kingside attack out of nowhere. Okay. And then eventually black started to make some critical errors. I think Queen C7 here was the big one because it allowed um, it allowed Nakamura just to rip open the king side. All right, so it is instinctive to want to get your queen out of the pin, but he probably thought that he could withstand the attack that was coming. All right, so just for the record, probably better is rook d6 and then move the queen away. All right, that way your king side is not being ripped open. So, for example, at 4, e takes e5, and now queen c7, exploiting the situation with the rook on e8. Say b4, b6, bishop takes, knight h5, and black slowly unravels queen b8, queen f3, and then you can move this rook to say like d5 or something like that. So it's a little better. White does have a slight initiative, and of course in these long like sample lines, there's always always some type of improvement in the mix. So this is not like gospel right here that these are the super best moves, but definitely rook d6 over queen c7. All right, so that was it for this game today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a little something. It was nice to see a mate on board. Between two grandmasters, that's rare unless it's in blitz, and you hardly even see it in blitz or rapid because usually they see it ahead of time and just resign. But Nakamura definitely around that time in 2012 was at his peak. It's hard to talk about Nakamura being at his peak, but because he's still like very young. But I think that was his peak, like about 2012, 2013, or around that time. Um, so anyway, please like, subscribe, check the links below. Please donate and support my channel. It would be greatly appreciated. And also check out the links below. There are DVDs and videos related to this particular opening. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.